Hi everybody, it's Chris Byberg, the Director of the National House of Prayer, and I'm here today with MAiD Fast, and we're here to talk about the Mental Protection Act, Bill C-314. So, Ed, would you like to tell us a little bit about this bill?
Well, this bill is focused on protecting the most vulnerable in our society, which would be the mentally ill. As you know, for some time, Canada has had assisted suicide, or medical assistance in dying, which was mandated by the Supreme Court of Canada. And the Supreme Court said, listen, here are the essentials of what you have to include in legislation to allow people to use medically assisted death. But the Senate chose to insert in the most recent legislation a provision that includes mentally ill persons, that includes those who are suffering from depression, say, including them in the scope of its medical assistance in dying regime. And we know that there are many, many issues that mental health professionals and the mental health community have identified as being issues that have not been resolved. Things such as suicidality and whether mental illness is incurable, which we know it isn't. We know there are many mental health professionals have spoken out and said, listen, these things remain unresolved. How could you move forward with assisted suicide for the mentally ill on that basis? And there's a suggestion from the Liberal government that there's a consensus in Canada that we should move ahead and include the mentally ill in medical assistance in dying. Well, I can tell you with absolute certainty, from all the studies we've seen, all the polls we've read, all the mental health professionals we've interviewed, that there's absolutely no consensus whatsoever that medical assistance in dying should be extended to the mentally ill. And in fact, the consensus is the other way. Canadians do not want to see this extended to the most vulnerable in our society. So that my bill simply reverses what the government has done in including the mentally ill in this assisted suicide regime.
One of the aspects that I was reading the bill earlier today, and one of the things that you said, to put in place legislation and structures to care and funding to care for mentally ill. I think that's absolutely amazing.
Well, that's one of the challenges I think the government faces. It claims to want to care for those who are most vulnerable in our society. So we're talking about the poor, we're talking about the sick, we're talking about the mentally ill, the drug addicted, veterans suffering from PTSD, and yet we as a country have not delivered the supports that allow people that are vulnerable to live meaningful lives. And until we get to that point where we can say to Canadians, listen, we've provided you with the supports that you need to live these meaningful lives, until we can say that, why would we now consider using death as an alternative? Death is not an alternative. It is not a medical treatment. It is a final end to one's life. And so I believe that we have gone too far, too fast as a country, and that there's no consensus to do this.
It's interesting that, we've spoken over the years about MAiD and it coming along, and right now, and the opponents of this type of thing from the beginning. I remember 20 years ago they said this is a slippery slope if we go here, and you know what? It has turned into a slippery slope. It's turned into a full-blown luge almost. It's a race to the bottom. But I'm really grateful for this legislation. How can we support you as Canadians? What can we do as Canadians to speak to our members of Parliament?
Well, there are a number of things that your viewers can do. One, of course, is to pray for us. We are the legislators for the country, and at the end of the day, it's about changing people's hearts. and helping them understand the value of a human life. So prayer is really important. There's another thing Canadians can do. Every so and so many years, we get a chance to vote.
Yes.
We choose the party and the government that we want to represent us.
Yeah.
The one thing I can say is that the leader of my party, the Conservative Party, Pierre Poilievre,
Yeah.
has said, I like Ed Fast's bill,
Yeah.
and if Ed Fast's bill does not pass the House of Commons, when we form government,
Yeah.
he will introduce legislation that reverses what the government has done in extending medical assistance and dying to the mentally ill. So we have a number of things that are available to us, tools we have available to influence the decisions that government is making.
Yes.
Those are some of them.
Great. Well, thank you, Ed. Thank you for this today. This is Chris Viberg. I'm here today with Ed Fast, the member from Abbotsford. It was good to see you. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.